Thank you for tuning into our podcast. We are coming to you from Chicopee, Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining me is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Camus. He offers both public and private tours, as well as presentations of the local canal systems, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks and streets in Holyoke, South Hadley, and Chicopee, Mass. So now you actually lead these tours and give these presentations yourself, is that correct?
Yes, and this one is in Heritage State Park, where a lot of tours happen.
And today he'll be educating us on the Holyoke Merry-Go-Round. So tell us about the Holyoke Merry-Go-Round.
All right, the Holyoke Merry-Go-Round is taken from Mountain Park of Holyoke. It was there for a very long time, from the 1920s and up to about the year in the 1990s at some point. And unfortunately, it's 1989, Mountain Park closed down for good. They couldn't sustain themselves with a profit anymore. And many of the rides were sold off. Many of the rides deteriorated to nothing. And fortunately, there were people that were very concerned, especially the president of the Holyoke Water Power Company. He wanted to get the carousel, the Holyoke Merry-Go-Round, down to Holyoke Heritage State Park and put a new house around it. But to transport it, build a new house, and redo all the horses to make sure that they were in great shape, that took a lot of money. And so what happened is that people had to come up with $1 million. And so they did. It was very hard. There was some big-time donors, but there was also small-time donors because school children were donating pennies at a time. All right, now we're going to talk about everything on our website, which includes the names of horses, pictures of horses. We're also going to talk about how come I made it a charity, and we're also going to talk about the future for it. But this Holyoke Merry-Go-Round, you can still go down there. It is with rides on Saturday and Sunday from noontime to 4 p.m. And it also has private parties for children's birthday or for your marriage. And it also has many special events that happen, and so you can catch a lot of good things. And it's in the Holyoke Heritage State Park, which already has a Volleyball Hall of Fame, the Children's Museum at Holyoke, and it is a great park just to wander around. So even if you're there, you're going to have a good time.
So what does one get from the details on their website?
Okay, so if you read about their website, the most important thing, to me at least, is that every horse that's on that merry-go-round has a name, and of course it has a color scheme, and that color scheme has been kept from the original, and they put them on their website and they rank it by the outer horses, the middle horses, and the inner horses. And so every horse on there has a beautiful picture taken of themselves, and then they describe the horse in its name, and they tell you is it a jumper or is it a stationary one. That means whether it goes up and down or just stays still. And that's a great feature because you can get used to all these beautiful horses even before you ever go there. Amazingly, a half century ago, I rode this ride at Mountain Park, and the music is still the same. The speed of revolution is still the same. And the whole look, the whole atmosphere is very much the same. The new house around it is also very similar. So everything's almost the same as it was. And it's a great ride. If you're going to have to save one ride from there, this is probably the best ride to save because it attracts all ages and it has a beautiful nostalgia to the whole scenery. And so I suggest you go there. Now, also on the website, they have booking, they have a donation page, they have our page, they have a history page about the carousel itself. And they keep developing it, so every year I go back and they get more and more. And that's a great feature.
And so quickly before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there he has both videos of the various stops along each tour and also past and present photos of the historical sites throughout as well. And if you're interested in setting up a private tour, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And they're perfect for fun educational outdoor activities for the whole family or for your group parties, especially those outdoor for special occasions and get-togethers. They're also good just for getting outdoors for the day. So getting back to our interview, why did you make the Holyoke Merry-Go-Round your 2023 charity?
The year 2023 is the 150th anniversary of Holyoke as a city, and so I wanted to come up with a very general interest charity that also symbolizes what Holyoke's been about for a long time. And something that also, I always choose a spot that's near the Holyoke Canal, and I always choose a activity that's children related. And so it was a very easy choice. I chose the Holyoke Merry-Go-Round as my 2023. Now, about in beginning of June, they wrote me back. I informed them in January. In the middle of June, they wrote me back. And they said they've got a lot of donations already, halfway through the year. And they were thrilled about that. They even gave me a photocopy of a letter that a woman had written them about my tours and about the charity. And she had given an enormous donation. So they sent me the letter and a card, and they also sent me 2 free tickets to take a ride on the carousel. I have not been on the carousel in a half a century. So I've been there many times. I've brought relatives and friends there to ride, but I've never been on it. So I hope to ride it sometime this year. They're open Saturday and Sunday, 52 weekends a year. So you can always catch a ride. If it's cold, they just close the doors and you get going.
Now, what does the future hold for the Merry-Go-Round?
Okay, the future is promising. They've been in that spot downtown, I think it's 25 years, or maybe 30 years. They've been there a long time. And they've always have great staff, and they always make their webpage better. They always take care of the horses. They make sure the horses are in top-notch shape. They get donations. The amount of activities they have does not equal what they need to bring in for revenue, and so donations are always welcome. And it's always a great place to go. If you have a young child, whether it's a nephew, niece, or a grandson or daughter, you should get them down there and spend, I think it's 4 rides or 5 rides for $10, which is a great price. 10 years ago was 5 rides for $5, but it's pretty good. So I hope to see you there.
And thank you for listening, and thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours. And you can also tune into a large selection of our other podcasts and much more at his website. Again, that is hoyokecanaltour.org. And again, you can email him directly for private tours or to inquire about anything else at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And be sure to keep an eye out for his upcoming 2024 season tours and more as they become available. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning into our podcast. We are coming to you from Chicopee, Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining me is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Cohen. He offers both public and private tours, as well as presentations of the local canal systems, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks and streets in Holyoke, South Hadley, and Chicopee, Mass. Now you actually lead these tours and give these presentations yourself, is that correct?
Yes, and I love this Heritage State Park.
Today he'll be educating us on the Children's Museum of Holyoke. So tell us about the Children's Museum of Holyoke.
The Children's Museum of Holyoke is a very special place. It came here because it liked the area so much. It had no connection to Holyoke. It just found a great home in Heritage State Park, knew this was the place to be because there was a lot of young people around Holyoke area, and they came in and stayed there. And they've always desired to stay here. They're on a piece of property that they're renting from the state, and they're able to pay their bills, and the place is popular beyond belief. There's a steady stream of people going in and out of this. Now, it has a beautiful website for itself, Children's Museum at Holyoke, and if you go there, you find about its rates and its hours. It's right next to the Volleyball Hall of Fame, It's right on the Holyoke Canal system. And so a bonus of going there is that not only is it the beautiful children's museum for children of all ages, well, of course, especially from about 2 to 12 years old, but also you got the beautiful park to walk around and the canal to look at. So I suggest going there. And of course, children will be attracted to the Holyoke Merry-Go-Round, which is in the same park. So if you go on weekends to the Children's Museum, then you got the added bonus of being able to walk that 100 yards over to the merry-go-round and having fun at that place. So I suggest you go there. Just check the websites, and you'll be happy you listened to me.
So, why did you choose the Children's Museum as one of your charities?
All right, I chose it as one of my many charities because I have conditions, and the conditions are that the charity is somewhere along any one of the canals of Holyoke, and it also serves the young people of the area. And the Children's Museum, of course, did just that. And so in the year 2021, or 2 years ago from this year 2023, I selected them as my charity. I wrote them a letter and I gave them all the information, and they were very happy, and they wrote me back. And they said they ended up getting a lot of money by the end of the year. And every year I changed my charity. And of course, how could you miss with such a gorgeous place? I hope at some point to cover every point of the Heritage State Park with a charity. So I had the merry-go-round in Holyoke this year, 2023. I had the Children's Museum in 2021. Hopefully in the future I'll have the Volleyball Hall of Fame as one of my charities. And also just the state park itself could also be a charity. So there's many, many charities around this area. And as technical details, I'm going to tell you about that after some information is given to you. And I hope to also tell you about how profitable they are and what will be going on in the future.
So, quickly, before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there he has both videos of the various stops along each tour and also past and present photos of the historical sites throughout as well. And if you're interested in setting up a private tour, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And they're perfect for fun and educational outdoor activities for the whole family or for your group parties, especially those special occasions and get-togethers. They are also good just for getting outdoors for the day. So getting back to our interview, tell us some technical details about the Children's Museum of Holyoke.
All right, you can park right on Dwight Street. They're located on Dwight Street within Heritage State Park. And you can also park in the Prue parking garage, which is right next to the park itself. Both are great. Now, most importantly, the hours. They're open Tuesday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's great hours. And then Saturday, open 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then Sunday, noontime to 4 p.m. And of course, they're closed during holiday seasons. Now, the admission is pretty nice. Children and adults, $8. So that's a good price to have. And you have a great fun for many hours in a row. And also, you can reserve birthday parties within the Children's Museum. And there's so many other things to talk about here. But most importantly, you should read their website, childrenmuseumholyoke.org, and read about what new things are getting. Read about how to visit, when to visit, and read up their contact information. Read about their history, and they have special things such as they have a trick-or-treat time. They have a Thanksgiving time special. They have a Christmas time special. And their rides or their setup within changes constantly. So you can go on a special day, you can do a special event. And there's even a party in the park every year, which is a lot of fun, where the whole park becomes a children's museum. So there's no reason not to check it out and go there with your young one.
So what does the future hold for this institution?
I see no bounds because they're so active to try to get things to stay up to date with equipment and rides. They're so responsive to staying involved with the community. They have special events. They have a Hispanic Heritage Month, for instance. They are in tune when kids are out of school in the area. So in February vacation week, they have a special event. They also have First Night Junior, which is the last day of the year, December 31st. Instead of having a first night, which is mostly for adults, and I think Northampton has one, at Holyoke Heritage State Park, they have one for the kids. And this year is very special because it's going to be part of the Holyoke 150th celebration. So all these things together makes for a great place. Now, if you go there, you'll see that everything is fresh. During the pandemic, they cleaned everything by the hour. And if you go there, you can see how well put together everything is. The Children's Museum is close to the volleyball. It's close to the center for the Holyoke Heritage State Park. It's close to the merry-go-round. So everything is blended together very well. Maybe someday they'll even expand it further. They have more imagination than I have. In this park, for instance, there is once a year a Polar Express where the train comes in and it gives out candy to kids, right? And they used to do that also in October. They stopped that part. But all the time they change to help the children. They are very responsive to the community. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours. We want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And you can also tune into a large selection of our other podcasts and much more at his website. Again, that's holyokecanaltour.org. And again, you can email him directly for private tours or to inquire about anything else at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And be sure to keep an eye out for his upcoming 2024 season tours and more as they become available. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning into our podcast. We are coming to you from Chicopee, Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining me is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Camus. He offers both public and private tours, as well as presentations of the local canal systems, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks and streets in Holyoke, South Hadley, and Chicopee, Mass. Now you actually lead these tours and give these presentations yourself, is that correct?
That's right, and this one's easy to find for people. It's right in the Heritage State Park.
And today we'll be talking about the Volleyball Hall of Fame. So tell us about the Volleyball Hall of Fame.
Okay, the Volleyball Hall of Fame was instituted in 1978 in Holyoke because that was the birthplace of volleyball, and it's the International Volleyball Hall of Fame. And during this podcast, we're going to talk about that event and Shin and who did it, and also talk about the Hall of Fame itself, how it's changed, and what should the Hall of Fame be like in the future. This is the year 2023. It happens to be the 150th anniversary of Holyoke as a city, and volleyball celebrates 130 years in a couple of years, and it has changed through time drastically too. Now, the Volleyball Hall of Fame is at the very end of the Holyoke Heritage State Park, the northern end. Easy to get to and easy parking on Dwight Street. It's only $8 for an adult. It's $5 for a child, so it's well worth that price. And it started out in the early 1970s. The Holyoke Chamber of Commerce wanted to get a Hall of Fame going for volleyball. It deserved it. And so it was ready by 78, and it was small in the beginning, but has grown since then. And of course, it's soon thereafter moved into the Heritage State Park. I think that was 1987. And that was a great move because you're right in the center of a lot of activity anyways. And I'm very proud of the way they keep it up now. It's beautiful. They have 167 inductees now after about 45 years of existence, so about 4 people a year. Since 1996, I believe, they've allowed international inductees. There's 26 countries now represented in the Hall of Fame. And so if they keep up this great work, then they'll keep getting to be like the other Hall of Fames around North America for baseball, hockey, and so forth, which are very rich.
So when, why, and who invented volleyball?
Okay. William Morgan invented volleyball in the year 1895. The reason why, well, he knew that James Naismith had invented basketball in Springfield in the 1880s, and it seemed to be a little bit too physical for most people. So he wanted to invent a sport that was slower and people could do it, say, at a lunch hour and have some physical activity, but not incredibly amounts. You might say, oh, volleyball is very physical. Yeah, it is now. It's extremely physical. Within the parameters of the rules, it's very physical. It's now an Olympic sport. But back then it was a slower paced game. It had a different name called minuets. And it's now still a recreation, but also very physical if you want it to be. And around Holyoke, William Morgan is well known. The place that he invented it at is now gone since 1940. It burned in the fire. It was a YMCA on the second floor. Pictures of it still exist, beautiful pictures. But like the basketball situation in Springfield, where that was invented doesn't exist either. So the YMCA has moved up to, I believe it's Beach Street, and the invention of volleyball happened in Holyoke, and you might think a lot of people played around Holyoke. Yeah, somewhat. It's a team sport in the high school level for both boys and girls. But one thing that hopefully can happen, it can get larger and larger through Holyoke.
And so quickly, before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there he has both videos of the various stops along each tour and also past and present photos of the historical sites throughout as well. And if you're interested in setting up a private tour, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And they are perfect for fun and educational outdoor activities for the whole family or for your group parties, especially those special occasions and get-togethers. And they're also good just for getting outdoors for the day. So, how has the Hall of Fame changed through the years?
Okay, it started very small. It started, I think it was in a room in City Hall, and then it grew very quickly to be located at Heritage State Park. And also it's changed that it now, after a few years, started allowing inductees from the international stage. And you probably know that in South America, volleyball is probably the second most important sport after, of course, soccer. And so that has brought in more inductees. And so every year they have the induction ceremony, I think it's in October, and they're getting more and more South American players. Of course, it's also a European sport, an Asian sport, and so there's a lot of players from there too. Now, the Hall of Fame has grown and grown and got more money in, and so it's become a nice place to visit. You get to see all the history, and you get to see each one of these 167 inductees have their own little plaque where you can read about them and see a picture of them. So it's really cool. It's not as great a place as Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, but basketball is enormous on the national stage and the international stage. So hopefully volleyball can go in that direction. And I think it is.
And what will the future be like for the Volleyball Hall of Fame?
Well, they're looking for a bigger place. I know that. If the mayor put out a wish that if there's any place around Holyoke that wants to build up a sports pavilion, then the Hall of Fame will move in there. So that's one, but that's going to cost a lot of money, of course, and no one's taken up the challenge yet. But hopefully in the future, we can get this Volleyball Hall of Fame bigger. One thing I wish they do even more, they do have programs around Holyoke to get volleyball very big within Holyoke. Maybe they can start pushing it in the surrounding communities too, like South Hadley, Northampton, East Hampton, and get them more involved in the Hall of Fame, in basketball, in volleyball itself, and that'd be great. They do have a tournament in the summer, I believe, in that Crozier Field. So that's one great thing, but they should push it as much as they can. They probably do on a small level, but if they push harder, great. and even push it more on the international level if possible. Get more people that play volleyball knowing that there's a Hall of Fame does exist, so they get more visitors there. They do have some from the local area, some from the national area, but international visits not as much. If they can get it up to the level of the Springfield's Basketball Hall of Fame, that would be incredible because they're very active.
So thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours. And we want to thank our listeners again for tuning in. And you can tune into a large selection of our other podcasts and much more on his website. And again, that's holyokecanaltour.org. And you can email him directly for private tours or to inquire about anything else at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And be sure to keep an eye out for his upcoming 2024 season tours and more as they become available. Thank you for tuning in.